One teen, the calm before the horror. Mandy Reynolds was a young woman known for her warmth, her laughter, and her unwavering love for her family and friends. In the small town of Maplewood, everyone knew her as kind, reliable, and full of life. She worked at the local bakery, had a circle of close friends, with her parents in a modest house on Elm Street. Life seemed ordinary, peaceful even, but behind the walls of her home, darkness was slowly creeping in. Mandy had a dog named Buddy, a loyal golden retriever with a keen sense of people and situations. Buddy was more than a pet. He was her companion, her protector, and in ways no one could anticipate, the silent witness to events that would soon shock an entire town. From the outside, the Reynolds household appeared normal. The streets were quiet, neighbors exchanged greetings, and the rhythms of everyday life carried on as if nothing could go wrong. But peace in small towns is often fragile, and secrets have a way of hiding in plain sight. Mandy's life had not been without its minor troubles. She had disagreements with her boyfriend, Joshua Harlan, a man known in the community for his temper. Neighbors occasionally heard shouting from the couple's apartment, never clear what the arguments were about. Friends noticed Mandy sometimes appeared nervous or distracted, but she brushed off their concerns, unwilling to reveal the cracks beneath her cheerful exterior. Buddy, however, seemed aware of more than Mandy let on. Behavior often shifted. He would growl at empty corners, bark at shadows, and sit protectively beside Mandy whenever Joshua approached. One evening after a routine walk with Buddy, Mandy returned home to find the front door slightly ajar. Her heart skipped a beat. She immediately called out. No one answered. Inside, the house seemed untouched, except for small signs that something had been moved. Mandy's unease grew. Buddy, unusually alert, circled the rooms, sniffing and growling at places where no one else could see. He refused to leave Mandy's side, screaming that danger was near. Days passed, and Mandy's anxiety deepened. Joshua had started showing up unexpectedly, insisting he needed to talk. He would knock loudly, pace the hallway, and demand answers to questions Mandy was not ready to give. Friends noticed Mandy withdrawing, her cheerful demeanor replaced with tension and fear. Buddy remained her constant, his vigilance never faltering. He followed her everywhere, his senses attuned to threats no human could fully perceive. Then, the unthinkable happened. Mandy did not return from work one evening. Her absence was immediately noticed by her parents, who called friends and colleagues, only to find no one had seen her since she left the bakery. Joshua claimed ignorance, insisting he had not seen her either. Demeanor and history of temper raised suspicions. Panic set in for Mandy's family, and the search began. Local authorities, neighbors, combed the town, hoping against hope to find her safe. It was Buddy who led the first clue. The loyal dog refused to stay in the house. He sat at the edge of the driveway, growling and tugging at his leash as if urging someone to follow him. Eventually, a neighbor noticed Buddy's behavior and called the authorities. Following the dog, officers discovered a series of clues leading them toward a remote area behind the local park. Buddy's instincts, honed by loyalty and love, were guiding them toward the truth. The calm of Maplewood was shattered. What had seemed like a minor disappearance began to unfold into something far darker, a horrifying story that no one in the town could have imagined. Mandy's life, once filled with warmth and promise, was about to be revealed as a tragic chapter in a tale of deceit, obsession, and murder. Part 2. Trail leads to the truth. The entire town of Maplewood was on edge after Mandy Reynolds vanished. Friends, neighbors, searched tirelessly, posting flyers, calling hospitals, and combing every street and alley. Despite their efforts, no immediate clues emerged, began to take hold. Mandy's parents felt helpless, haunted by the possibility that something terrible had happened. In those first frantic days, clear that conventional searches might not be enough. Yet Buddy, her loyal golden retriever, was about to change everything. Buddy's behavior had grown increasingly strange. Instead of settling at home, he wandered from room to room, growling at corners and sniffing the air with intensity that alarmed everyone. Officers accompanying the family noticed that the dog's attention was focused on the backyard and the small path leading to the park behind the house, as if Buddy sensed something humans could not see, a presence or scent that demanded investigation. The police decided to follow him by his persistent insistence to lead the way. The dog led authorities through the park, moving with determination toward a thick cluster of trees near the edge of a small creek. Every step was deliberate, as if Buddy knew exactly where to go. When they reached the area, officers discovered small but telling signs of disturbance footprints that did not match any town residents, broken branches, and remnants of what appeared to be a struggle. It was the first tangible evidence in the search for Mandy, and it pointed unmistakably toward foul play. Sat vigilantly nearby, refusing to leave, his eyes fixed on the tree line, as if daring someone to approach. Investigators soon found more clues that deepened the horror. Among the debris were personal items belonging to Mandy: a scarf, a bracelet, a torn notebook. Each item suggested that she had fought, struggled, and been forcibly taken from the familiar safety of her home and neighborhood. It became increasingly clear that her disappearance was not a random incident, a targeted act orchestrated by someone with knowledge of her habits and routines. Buddy's instincts, honed by love and loyalty, had led the authorities straight to the scene of a crime. Meanwhile, detectives began interrogating Joshua Harlan, Mandy's boyfriend. Temper and past confrontations with Mandy made him a person of interest. Joshua initially presented himself as concerned and cooperative, but inconsistencies in his statements began to emerge. He claimed he had been at home when Mandy left work, yet phone records and witness accounts contradicted him. Investigators noted subtle changes in his behavior, small tells that betrayed anxiety and guilt, however, remained unconvinced. Even in the presence of officers, he growled and barked when Joshua was nearby, his protective instincts honing in on the man who had caused Mandy harm. As the search continued, teams uncovered physical evidence that pointed directly to foul play. Tire tracks matching Joshua's vehicle were found near the park. Analysis of the area revealed traces of blood. The discovery confirmed what many had feared. Mandy Reynolds had been the victim of a violent attack. Buddy, refusing to leave her side, had been instrumental in guiding authorities to the scene, his unwavering loyalty turning him into an unlikely hero in a case that could have remained unsolved. In the days that followed, the small town of Maplewood watched in horror as the investigation unfolded. Media coverage intensified, neighbors speculated about the motives, and families grew increasingly wary. Buddy remained at the forefront, his presence a constant reminder of Mandy's absence and the courage required to face the truth. It became clear that without his instincts and determination, Mandy's fate might never have been discovered. The loyal dog's actions marked a turning point in the case. What had begun as a mysterious disappearance was now being treated as a homicide investigation. It is focused on the evidence, questioning every lead, and piecing together the horrifying reality. Reynolds had been targeted by someone close to her, someone who knew how to manipulate trust, silence resistance, and inflict harm. Part 30. Mind behind the crime. The investigation into Mandy Reynolds' disappearance intensified as authorities followed the trail Buddy had led them to. Every clue pointed toward someone who knew Mandy intimately, someone who had access to her routines and could anticipate her every move. Suspicion focused on Joshua Harlan, her boyfriend, whose history of aggression and erratic behavior cast a dark shadow over the case. Yet as detectives dug deeper, the full extent of the danger Mandy had faced began to emerge, a web of deceit, manipulation that was far more sinister than anyone had imagined. Joshua, confronted with the mounting evidence, attempted to maintain calm. He claimed ignorance, insisting he had nothing to do with Mandy's disappearance. His alibi was thin, and witnesses contradicted his story, noting inconsistencies in his account of the hours leading up to her vanishing. Detectives examined his phone records, text messages, and social media activity, uncovering threatening messages he had sent Mandy in the days before her disappearance. The tone of these communications suggested increasing hostility, a desire to control, and a willingness to harm her to achieve his objectives. Despite Joshua's attempts to appear innocent, Buddy's behavior remained consistent and alarming. The dog growled whenever Joshua approached, barked insistently when officers discussed the case, and even refused to enter rooms where Joshua had been. Investigators began to treat Buddy not merely as a pet, but as a vital witness whose instincts offered a perspective no human could provide. Every reaction, every gesture, every growl was meticulously noted, creating a picture of Joshua's guilt that was impossible to ignore. Meanwhile, evidence continued to mount. Blood traces recovered near the creek, combined with items belonging to Mandy, confirmed the likelihood of a violent confrontation. Tire tracks matching Joshua's vehicle were discovered near the scene, and surveillance footage from nearby stores placed him in the vicinity at the critical hours. The weight of the evidence was overwhelming, yet the motive remained murky. Investigators speculated that Joshua's controlling tendencies, combined with anger over perceived slights, had driven him to commit an act that was both impulsive and meticulously calculated. Friends and family of Mandy Reynolds struggled to reconcile the image of the man they had trusted with the emerging evidence. Joshua had been charming, engaging, and capable of feigned affection. Yet beneath this farce lay a dangerous, obsessive personality, one capable of cruelty when his desires were challenged. The stark contrast between his outward charm and hidden menace left the community shaken, illustrating how appearances can be deceiving and how ordinary relationships can conceal lethal threats. As authorities prepared to confront Joshua, Buddy remained close to Mandy's parents, offering comfort while silently guiding investigators. The dog's loyalty became a lifeline of insight and reassurance amidst the mounting tension. Every step toward truth was marked by Buddy's vigilance, his unwavering focus on exposing the one responsible for Mandy's fate. Without his presence, key evidence might have remained undiscovered, and the investigation could have stalled indefinitely. Finally, confronted with the mounting physical and circumstantial evidence, Joshua's composure broke. Hours of interrogation revealed cracks in his story, hesitations, and eventual confessions to minor acts, though he initially denied the full extent of his actions. Detectives, piecing together statements, phone records, and Buddy's behavior, began to outline a sequence of events. Mandy had been lured under false pretenses, confronted, and attacked in a secluded area near the creek. Buddy's trail had preserved the evidence that would ultimately expose Joshua's violent intent and ensure justice. By the end of this stage in the investigation, the town of Maplewood realized the magnitude of what had occurred. Mandy Reynolds' life had been violently interrupted by someone she trusted. The courage and instincts of her loyal dog ensured that the truth would not remain hidden. Buddy's vigilance had turned the tide, revealing the dangers lurking behind a farce, aid of normalcy, and protecting the memory of a young woman who had been silenced too soon. Part 40, and shocking revelations. The arrest of Joshua Harlan sent shockwaves through the town of Maplewood, and neighbors struggled to comprehend that the man who had seemed so ordinary, so charming, and so close to Mandy Reynolds could be capable of such a horrifying act. The authorities moved quickly, guided by the evidence Buddy had helped uncover. Tire tracks, blood traces, belongings, and the dog's unwavering behavior left no room for doubt. Joshua was taken into custody, already beginning to crack under the weight of suspicion. Mandy's parents, though grief-stricken, felt a small sense of relief. They knew that the person responsible for their daughter's disappearance was finally in custody. And yet the emotional toll was immense. Family had spent days in fear, nights filled with anxiety, and every waking moment haunted by uncertainty. Buddy, ever loyal, remained by their side, offering comfort, while simultaneously serving as a silent reminder of the evidence that had made the arrest possible. As if the dog understood that the battle was not yet over, that justice had to be ensured through the legal system. During the initial interrogation, Joshua's denials were met with mounting frustration from investigators. He claimed ignorance, insisted on his innocence, and attempted to manipulate the narrative, portraying himself as a victim of circumstances and accusations. Yet every question, every piece of evidence, and every statement from witnesses chipped away at the story he tried to maintain. The recordings and documentation Emily had collected, combined with the forensic evidence from the creek and Buddy's guidance to the site, created a narrative that was impossible to ignore. The investigation continued, shocking details of Joshua's intentions and mindset emerged. Detectives discovered that he had planned the encounter meticulously, understanding Mandy's routines, knowing the isolated areas she frequented, and intending to confront her when she was most vulnerable. His obsession with control and his volatile temperament were laid bare, revealing a pattern of coercion and manipulation that extended beyond Mandy. Investigators began to examine his past relationships, uncovering similar behaviors and raising questions about whether other incidents had gone unnoticed. Concealed behind appearances of normalcy, the town of Maplewood, gripped by fear and disbelief, followed every development closely. News outlets covered the arrest extensively, highlighting the unusual role Buddy, the loyal dog, had played in bringing the truth to light. Interviews with Mandy's parents, friends, and neighbors painted a picture of a community grappling with the shocking reality that someone they trusted could inflict such harm. Buddy, despite the chaos, remained calm and attentive, almost as if he understood the significance of his actions. His presence became symbolic, representing loyalty, courage, and the unwavering pursuit of justice. As the case moved toward trial, Joshua's initial bravado eroded. The combination of physical evidence, Buddy's guidance, witness statements, and the undeniable trail of his own actions created a legal situation from which there was no escape. Prosecutors meticulously presented the timeline, analysis, and the emotional testimony of Mandy's loved ones. Buddy's role was highlighted as extraordinary, a reminder of how instincts and observation can tip the balance in a criminal investigation. During the proceedings, Joshua's behavior became increasingly erratic. He lashed out at the prosecution, attempted to intimidate witnesses, and even showed a disturbing lack of remorse. Yet the jury, guided by the weight of evidence and the undeniable chain of events, remained focused on justice. The trial revealed the depth of his obsession, the violence of his intentions, and the catastrophic impact of his actions on Mandy Reynolds, her family, and the entire community. By the conclusion of Part 4, it was evident that the combination of human diligence, canine instinct, and relentless investigation had ensured that Mandy's story would not be forgotten, that justice would be pursued, and that the horrifying truth behind her disappearance had been exposed for all to see. Began to process the reality that the most ordinary appearances can conceal unimaginable danger. Part 5, the trial that shocked a town, of Joshua Harlan gripped Maplewood in a way few events ever had. From the very first day, the courtroom was packed with family, friends, neighbors, and journalists eager to witness the proceedings of a case that had shaken their community to its core. The atmosphere was tense, heavy with anticipation and anger. Every detail of Mandy Reynolds' disappearance and the horrifying events that followed were about to be laid bare for the world to see. The prosecution opened with a clear and compelling narrative outlining Joshua's obsession, his control over Mandy, and the events leading to her violent death. The story was methodical, tracing his movements, phone records, and the evidence uncovered by law enforcement, including the trail that Buddy had revealed. Each piece of evidence reinforced the prosecution's case. Joshua's knowledge of Mandy's routines, his manipulative messages, and the forensic findings near the creek left no room for doubt. Buddy, though not physically in the courtroom, became a silent hero throughout the trial. His critical role in guiding authorities to the evidence that would ultimately expose Joshua's crime was highlighted repeatedly. Photographs, diagrams, and testimony described how the dog's instincts had led investigators to crucial items and locations, reinforcing that without his loyalty and vigilance might never have been solved. Witnesses testified about Buddy's unusual behavior and persistence, painting a vivid picture of how this loyal companion had protected Mandy's memory even in her absence. Testimonies from Mandy's family were heart-wrenching. Her parents spoke of their grief, the anxiety they had endured during her disappearance, and the moments of hope that had been dashed. They described Buddy's loyalty, how he refused to leave their side, and how his instincts had pointed toward the truth, even when human intuition failed. The emotional weight of their words filled the courtroom with silence, tangible reminder of the human cost behind the evidence. Every tear, every shaky voice, underscored the impact of Joshua's actions on a family forever scarred. Friends of Mandy also took the stand, recounting her kindness, her laughter, and the bright future she had ahead. Their testimonies highlighted the stark contrast between Mandy's vibrant life and the darkness Joshua had brought into it. These personal stories provided context, showing not just the crime itself, but the ripple effects it had on the community. The witnesses' emotional recounting of Mandy's last known days created a vivid narrative, connecting jurors to the reality of her life and the loss they were confronting. Joshua's defense attempted to undermine the evidence, portraying him as a misunderstood individual, attempting to manipulate circumstances to his favor. He claimed partial innocence, disputed timelines, to frame inconsistencies as coincidences. Yet the combination of physical evidence, forensic analysis, witness testimony, and Buddy's critical role in uncovering the crime made these arguments weak. Every denial, every attempt to twist the narrative, was countered by a mountain of proof, leaving little room for doubt in the minds of the jurors. Throughout the trial, tension remained high. The courtroom was filled with a sense of urgency, the knowledge that justice had to be served, and that the community demanded accountability. Buddy's role remained central in the narrative, a reminder that in a world of deceit and violence, loyalty, vigilance, even from a dog, can make the difference between truth and cover up. By the end of Part 5, clear that the verdict would hinge not just on forensic evidence or witness testimony, but on the irrefutable impact of Joshua's actions and the unwavering role of Mandy's loyal dog in revealing them. Maplewood waited, anxious, knowing that the conclusion of the trial would bring clarity, justice, and a measure of closure for a tragedy that had left an indelible mark on the town. Part 60, Justice and the Legacy of Loyalty. The day of the verdict arrived, and the town of Maplewood was tense with anticipation. The courtroom was packed, the air heavy with emotion, grief, and a long-held desire for justice. Mandy Reynolds' parents sat at the front, their hands clasped tightly together, faces pale with anxiety. Friends and community members filled the remaining seats, their eyes fixed on the proceedings, waiting for a moment that would forever change the course of their collective lives. Buddy, the loyal golden retriever who had been central to uncovering the truth, remained with the family outside, a silent guardian whose instincts had led to justice. Inside the courtroom, the prosecution delivered a compelling closing argument, laying out the evidence against Joshua Harlan with precision. They highlighted the meticulous planning behind Mandy's disappearance, his obsession with control, and his violent actions. Every piece of forensic evidence, every witness statement, and every detail of Buddy's trail was presented to demonstrate the undeniable guilt of the defendant. The jury listened intently, the weight of each fact, the depth of the deception, and the horror of the crime that had shaken the community. The defense, in contrast, made a final attempt to cast doubt, emphasizing inconsistencies in testimony and challenging minor details of the evidence. Joshua tried to present himself as misunderstood, claiming that circumstances had spiraled out of his control. Yet, the mountain of proof against him, combined with the emotional testimonies of Mandy's family and friends, left little room for leniency. The jurors were faced with the reality that the life of a young woman had been destroyed by someone she had trusted. Justice required a definitive response. When the jury filed back into the courtroom, the tension was palpable. Each juror's expression revealed the gravity of their decision. The foreperson stood and delivered the verdict, guilty of murder in the first degree. The words reverberated through the room, a mixture of relief, grief, and disbelief washing over everyone present. Mandy's parents wept openly, holding each other tightly, while friends exchanged solemn nods, knowing that, while nothing could undo the tragedy, justice had been served. The sentencing followed, with Joshua receiving life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. The judge described the severity of the crime, the betrayal of trust, and the profound impact on Mandy's family and the community. Maplewood collectively exhaled, the weight of months of fear and anxiety beginning to lift. The verdict, while sobering, provided a measure of closure that had long been desperately needed. The courthouse, Buddy sat loyally beside Mandy's parents, his golden fur glinting in the sunlight. Though unable to understand the proceedings, the dog had played an extraordinary role in exposing the truth. Reporters and community members recognized the dog's contributions, calling him a hero whose instincts had guided authorities to crucial evidence. Buddy had not only protected Mandy's memory, but had also ensured that her story would not remain hidden. His loyalty and courage became a symbol of hope, and resilience for everyone affected by the case. In the aftermath, the Reynolds family worked to heal, though the shadow of Mandy's loss remained ever present. Friends and neighbors rallied around them, offering support and solidarity. Community programs were established to raise awareness about domestic violence and the warning signs of obsession and control. Using Mandy's story as a cautionary tale, Buddy remained an integral part of the family, his presence a daily reminder of the love, loyalty, and bravery that had helped bring justice. The case of Mandy Reynolds serves as a chilling reminder that danger can lurk behind the most familiar faces, and manipulation can escalate into tragedy, and that sometimes heroes come in unexpected forms. Buddy, the loyal dog who refused to abandon Mandy and whose instincts led authorities to the truth, ensured that justice prevailed. His actions proved that loyalty and vigilance, qualities often overlooked, can expose darkness and protect the innocent, leaving a legacy that will never be forgotten. The story of Mandy Reynolds, her tragic death, and the heroic role of Buddy continues to resonate, a powerful testament to the enduring bond between humans and their loyal companions, and a sobering warning of the consequences of deception and unchecked violence.